Hey, Wicked Deke here, doing the Los Angeles Kings 10 game review. Yes, we're that little distance into the season where the new season smell is fading, and we've kind of got a good idea what the team looks like. And so it's time to do our review. So the Kings are 4-6, but they played against a pretty difficult schedule. They played some really good teams, and they've held up well against some of those really good teams, and some of the other teams have kicked their ass. So let's take a look. Coaching. The Ewok reign has begun. And I think we've pretty much gotten what we expected. We have a professional coach. We have a guy who's a bit of a hard ass, which I think the Kings need, certainly the veterans do. And we have a new structure. The new structure, of course, is based on a number of different concepts, but the two-man forecheck, where the first forward heads in and tries to immediately get on top of the first defender who's got the puck or is going to get the puck, while the second forward beelines for the second defenseman to try to cut off a passing lane and create stress and or turnovers. It's nice to see. Nice to see. Much more aggressive than what the Kings used to do. It does lead to some rushes the other way, but it also leads to some offensive chances. And we've seen it in some of the periods where the Kings miraculously have 20 shots or more in a period. I mean, there were a lot of games last year where we didn't have 20 shots in a freaking game. All in all, it's nice to see the new system. Any complaints about the coaching? Yeah, probably two areas. One, he's not playing enough kids, and I get that. That's probably a result of quote unquote the plan. You have to hope the idea is they're playing all the vets in an effort to build up some value and try to trade them. But all I can say is that when March 1st hits, after the trade deadline, there better be more kids in the lineup, because you do not rebuild with a veteran-heavy lineup. And I get it. We have the contracts and everything else, but there is zero reason Grenion should be sitting in the AHL. He has like 5 goals in 3 games. He's not gaining anything down there. He should be up here on the NHL team. And the other thing I would think a little bit about is, I don't know if you can really blame the Ewok for this, but we're 10 games in, and you still see periods where there's just massive loss of structure. And now, that's probably something that will come, but we are 10 games in. This isn't like, we're 2 games in. So hopefully, they'll keep working on that. The one thing I really, really like about this coaching staff, though, is that when the Kings are god awful at something in a game, they're not god awful at it in the next game. It gets fixed. So the penalty kill, we all remember that game. I don't even remember who it was against. I think the opposing team had 3 power plays, and they scored on all 3, and it wasn't that difficult. Well, they fixed that the next game. And then they went a couple games where it was fixed, and then of course against St. Louis they gacked that area of the game up again. So I'm sure they'll have to revisit it. But the point is that the coaches recognize there's a problem and they fix the problem, or they try to. Unlike the Willie Desjardins era, where there was a problem, and not only was that problem not fixed the next game, but 3 more sprouted up. So the coaching, I'll give him a B+ so far. Effort, you really shouldn't have to talk about effort with a pro team, and it's kind of disgusting that we do. But I think we all watched the season last season, saw quite a few games where effort was an issue. The good news is the kids are playing hard, which you would expect, but the vets seem to have also made the commitment, and so that's good. Again, it's kind of pathetic we have to even mention that, but we'll give them A- in effort. The vets, are they great? No. Are they terrible? No. I think they're pretty much what we were hoping they would be, which is you would see rebounds from some of the players. You see more effort. You would see more buy-in. I think we've got that pretty much from everybody. I don't see any particular vet that you can point at and say, oh, he's not there. Okay, well, let's start with the vets that everybody likes to hammer on. Covey. Covey is Covey. Again, I don't see a lack of effort. I see a guy who's Covey. I mean, he is what you bought. And I know Kings fans get pissed. What about the defensive zone? And what about this, that, and the other? That's what Kovalchuk has always been. It's what he was with the Thrashers. It's what he was with the Devils. He doesn't play defense. He'll never be a good defenseman. That's not, a defensive forward. That's just not who he is. It's like trading for Ovechkin and then bitching that he doesn't play the penalty kill. That's not what you signed up for. Would we like to see Covey score more? Yeah, sure, absolutely. And maybe as the season goes along, he will. Who knows? He's shown some good shots, but he's made the effort. He's been in the scrums. He dug out that puck and got Toffoli a nice goal. He's been making the effort. So, have there been a couple of Covey games? Sure. And you know what? There are going to be a couple more. And that's just the nature of, his style and how he plays. He's a creative offensive force. Think of him more as an artiste. And you know how artistes are. They may create something beautiful. It may be 3 months late and, $50,000 over budget, but that's what you get. That's what you signed up for. So stop bitching about Kobe. Jeff Carter, we've talked about him endlessly before. He looks much better. He's playing, much harder. He's got some of his speed back. I still think his hands are kind of questionable, but he's got 2 goals now. Good for him. Great for him. I hope he scores maybe 8 more before January and they can trade him. But we've seen a bounce back. I think that's great. Toffoli, what can you say about Toffoli? It looks like Toffoli, that was a beautiful Deacon drag that he did in that game a couple games ago. But, there are also tons of shots to the goalie's logo. Again, my personal view, I hope to trade him. Brown, I kind of thought Brown would play better, to be honest. Well, he's not playing bad. I'm not suggesting he's playing bad. I thought he'd be more productive. I thought given more offensive freedom, we might see more from him. Hopefully we will the rest of the season, but he hasn't been bad. He's been Brown. And so no complaints there. Kopitar, I thought, had a rough start. Yeah, he was scoring points. I know everybody looks at the points, but he was also a negative player. Before you say plus minus doesn't mean anything, yes, it does when you're the player causing the minuses. And Kopitar did quite a few skates of shame in the defensive zone after goals because it was his turnovers that were causing the goals. Very un-Kopitar-like. But the last 3 games, he's looked like Kobe of old, very solid in the defensive zone, still piling up the points. So I think you have to be pretty happy with him moving forward. And even better, he's not skating 23 minutes a night. Usually it's more like 18 or 19, which hopefully means he'll be a little fresher at the end of the season. Other forwards, Clifford, he's been Cliffy. Lewis, he's been Lewis. I mean, you're getting kind of what you expect from all those guys. Vowles has been Vowles. On defense, Doughty's numbers are horrible, absolutely awful. He's by far the worst rated defenseman on the team. I don't think he's looked that bad. I mean, he's had some plays where you're like, but he's also, been pretty solid offensively. Is he the Doughty of old? I think when you really watch him, particularly if you watch older video of Doughty, he's not. And I hadn't realized how much he had changed. But I don't think he's bad by any stretch of the imagination. He's certainly not the worst Kings defender. So I imagine the numbers will come back up. I don't see any big, huge problem with him. The other defenders, I don't know, do you consider them vets or not, or whatever. Martinez has kind of been what Martinez always is. He's pretty good as a defender. He can get beat, and he's good for a horrible turnover once every 3 or 4 games. In goal, Quickie, of course, had the awful start. But he's looked pretty solid the last 3 games. I think he stopped the goals he expected to stop, threw in a couple spectacular saves. But if you go watch video of Quickie from this year compared to like 3 years ago, he's changing his goaltending style. He is becoming more positionally oriented and less of a physical goaltender. It's kind of interesting. Somebody mentioned it to me, and I started watching the videos, and you can really see it. He is not nearly as acrobatic and aggressive as he was before. Now, how that all plays out, who knows? But at least he's acknowledging that he's not 25 anymore, and maybe his game needs to evolve. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays. Campbell, I don't know, is he a vet or not? I don't know what anybody considers him. Campbell's been Campbell. He's been solid, I would think. I don't really have any gripes. That one goal against Calgary was an affront to whatever God you believe in, the one where they scored from practically below the the bottom line from the corner. But other than that, he's been solid. No complaints. I think our goaltending is fine. Will they ever be able to trade Quick? I still don't see it just because of that contract and his age, but who knows? So all in all, with the vets, I think, if you said before the season that we were getting what we're getting right now, we'd all be pretty happy with that. I know there are a couple of myopic people that we should all be scoring 30 goals each and going to the cup, but those people also think we're going to score more than 100 points this year. Yeah. The kids, my bitch with the kids, not enough of them are up and playing. I get it. First half of the season, let's showcase the vets. Fine. All I can say is when March 1st hits after the trade deadline, if we still have all these vets in the lineup, Blake should be fired. And before you say to me, yeah, but look at the prospect line. Here's breaking news. The GM doesn't create the prospect line. The head of scouting does. Yannetti. If you don't believe me, go listen to Yzerman interviews when he talked about how they built Tampa Bay. Yzerman was not out scouting the players and picking them. Andy Murray was, or not Andy Murray, Arthur Murray. Al Murray is the head of scouting for the Leafs. So full credit to Yannetti. Full credit to Blake, though, for finding some of the college free agents and everything else. Then Lizzie, of course, is very impressive. So what about the kids? Dom Amadio. He's been great, I think. Are we still counting him as a kid? I don't know who we're counting as kids anymore. But if we are counting him as a new prospect and a new kid, I think he's been absolutely fantastic. I think he's been the best kid up. And yes, I know you love Thin Lizzy. I love Thin Lizzy too. But Thin Lizzy's an energy player. He's been very good. Don't get me wrong. Excellent. I have nothing negative to say about him. He's not exactly an offensive force. I think that Amadio is better than him in that sense. I actually think Amadio running the second power play unit is better than the first power play unit. Because when the puck gets to Amadio, it doesn't die. He doesn't sit there and hold it like Kopitar does. And in fact, if you watch closely, you will notice that T-Mac apparently thinks the same thing, because there were quite a few games here recently where suddenly the second power play unit was playing a lot more than the first power play unit, and it wasn't because of shift changes. Dom is, when he has confidence and he plays his game, which he seems to this year, he's pretty damn impressive. He's very subtle, but he can really run a power play, and I think that's great. So the kids, those two forwards, I think are great. Again, I don't know why Grunion is down in the AHL. He's not learning anything down there, and he's dominating like you would expect. Really like to see him up on the team, but I get it. I'll be patient for like 3 days until I do another video, and then I'll be pissed. And then he who we must not mention, Mr. Kempe. Is Kempe still a kid? Are we still considering him a kid? He's been in the NHL now for 2+ years. The dream is dying. I'm not the only one that apparently thinks that he should not be playing center. Certainly not a 2C, because McClellan's obviously moved him out of that position, and he is falling down the lineup. And I'm going to say something that will probably be a little controversial, and you may think I'm crazy, but hear me out. I think they should trade Kempe. And I think they should trade him because I think he still has value now, because I think he's 22, 23, and he has that beautiful speed, and he's defensively responsible. He's improved in the faceoff. And I think you could still sell it to another team that this guy has a lot of offensive potential, but the Kings are just terrible at developing forwards. So if we traded for him, we could turn him into, whatever it is I think they could turn him into. Because I think if you go the rest of the season and he doesn't produce numbers, which I don't think he's going to, then you've got 3 seasons under his belt in the NHL, and he has no numbers, no consistent numbers, let's put it this way, to show. And what's his trade value at that point? Now you might be thinking, okay, well, what are the Kings going to do at center? Well, if, and it's a huge assumption, if Velarde can actually play, in 2 seasons or the season after next, you are looking at a center lineup of Kopitar, Velarde, and Turcotte in some order, and Ederson Dolan. There is no room for Kempe. So this whole Kempe center experiment dies on the vine. I think they were trying to catch, lightning in a bottle or whatever the cliche is, and they whiffed. What about putting Kempe as a wing? Well, he has the same problems. He's not, he's not a goal scorer. He wants to fancy himself as a playmaker. Well, wings aren't playmakers. You want wings to go in and shoot. You want them to snipe. That's what you want from your wing. Kempe is not a sniper. Yeah, he has a skill. I fully agree. I'm not debating that. He doesn't have the ambition. He doesn't have the drive to go to the net, shoot, score. He just doesn't. I don't know why. And I imagine there are quite a few Kings executives who have headaches thinking about it. But he just doesn't show that. Now, can we keep Kempe as a 4th or 3rd line wing who's defensively responsible? He's basically Lewis, a young Lewis, who maybe, is faster and pitches in, goals every once in a while. Sure, $2 million a year. I just don't see the reason for doing that. I mean, you and I both know the Kings breed bottom 6 forwards like rabbits. So why not trade him while he has some value and try and get a pick or maybe a prospect or something that potentially we could use, to try and find another player who maybe could be a top 6 forward. I don't know. We'll have to see. But to me, the Kempe experiment is done and dusted. And why he's on the power play, I have no idea. And I think if we're honest, Kempe could probably use a fresh start too. He probably wouldn't mind being traded somewhere where, kind of start over and maybe get some new perspective, if you will. And then there's the issue of Velarde. He's skating. I haven't checked the news recently because there was a fire by my house, and so the damn utility turned off the power for a couple days. But Velarde was supposed to start skating with the Ontario Reign if he felt good after a week of being on skates. And so it'll be interesting to see if he is in fact passes his back issues. If it was in fact spondylolysis and now it's resolved, that would be a huge lift for this organization, because again, in a year or two, you're looking at a center lineup of Kopitar, Velarde, Turcotte, Anderson Dolan. Even if Velarde's not ready, maybe Thomas or Kupari. I tend to think Kupari is more of a wing, but you're talking about some real talent coming up, and we suddenly start having a center position that's not a liability, and that would be huge. But for this year, am I changing my prediction? I had said 85 points before the beginning of the season, and I'm going to say, yeah, I'll stick with 85. I think the Kings will be, a bit above 500, somewhere around there. Maybe they drop after the trade deadline if they get rid of a bunch of vets, because they'll bring up the kids. The kids will make mistakes while they learn how to play at the NHL level. And I'm completely fine with that, because that's a necessary step in a rebuild. And we need to start taking it sooner rather than later. So, all in all, I think if you said at the beginning of this year, this is what the Kings would look like, you'd probably be pretty happy with them. The record's probably a little disappointing, but again, they played some pretty strong teams. They haven't had many laughers, and some of the games have been impressive. The 4-1 beatdown of Calgary I thought was very impressive, but some games have been absolute turtles, like when Vancouver just wiped the floor with us, and we're gonna probably see more of that moving forward. Welcome to a rebuild. So anyways, that is it for today. Dig out.